Certainly. Here's Section I. The Frozen Frontier, a history of mystery and isolation written in at least 700 words. Hashtag Section I. The Frozen Frontier, a history of mystery and isolation. At the bottom of the world lies a land so vast and desolate that few humans have ever truly explored it. Antarctica, a continent of ice, silence, and secrets, stretches over 5.5 million square miles, yet remains largely untouched, its mysteries locked beneath miles of ancient ice. Unlike other continents teeming with life and history, Antarctica is a realm where reality and speculation often blur. With its extreme isolation, international restrictions, and curious anomalies, the southernmost continent has become a magnet for both scientific intrigue and shadowy conspiracy. But why is it that Antarctica, more than any other location on Earth, continues to be a fertile ground for tales of hidden monsters, secret bases, and a chilling cover-up? Hashtag the inaccessible world. The sheer remoteness of Antarctica is one of its greatest mysteries. With temperatures plunging to minus 80 degrees Celsius, minus 112 degrees Fahrenheit, and wind speeds rivaling hurricanes, the continent remains one of the harshest environments known to man. Only a handful of permanent research stations in its icy expanse, occupied by rotating crews of scientists and support staff, typically under 5,000 people even in the summer, and barely 1,000 in the winter. Access is tightly regulated, and any travel beyond the immediate surroundings of these stations requires special clearance, advanced logistics, and often military escort. In this white void, the lack of visibility, both literal and figurative, provides fertile ground for secrets to thrive. Throughout the 20th century, Antarctica remained largely unexplored, its secrets guarded by layers of ice and geopolitical agreements. Despite the presence of global powers like the United States, Russia, and China, no country is allowed to claim the territory. Instead, it is governed by the Antarctic Treaty, a pact signed in 1959 by 12 nations. On the surface, this treaty aims to ensure peaceful scientific cooperation. But for many, this very agreement is evidence of something much more suspicious, a global collaboration to keep something hidden. Hashtag Admiral Byrd and Operation High Jump. Perhaps no single figure has contributed more to the Antarctic mystique than Rear Admiral Richard E. Byrd. A decorated U.S. naval officer and pioneering polar explorer, Byrd led several expeditions to the Antarctic, but none more controversial than Operation High Jump in 1946-47. Officially, it was a large-scale training mission meant to establish a research base and test U.S. military equipment in frigid conditions. But the scale of the operation, involving 13 ships, 33 aircraft, and over 4,700 personnel, suggested something far more serious than scientific study. Rumors persist to this day that the mission encountered something unexpected and deadly. Cryptic journal entries and later interviews attributed to Byrd reference flying objects, moving at incredible speeds, and a new enemy with capabilities far beyond any known technology at the time. Some believe Byrd was describing contact with advanced cryptids or non-human entities beneath the ice. The sudden and unexplained termination of the operation after only a few weeks, despite being planned for several months, has only fueled speculation. Hashtag the Antarctic Treaty. A global agreement of silence? The Antarctic Treaty System is often hailed as a triumph of peaceful international cooperation. It prohibits military activity, mineral mining, and nuclear testing while promoting scientific research. Yet the treaty also strictly limits the freedom of independent investigation. Civilian access is restricted. Certain areas are off-limits. Surveillance and satellite coverage of some regions remains mysteriously absent or classified. Skeptics argue that the treaty has less to do with conservation and more with concealment. How is it that a continent filled with natural anomalies, including massive mountain ranges, subglacial lakes, and unexplored crevices, remains so carefully untouched in an age of rampant global exploration? The theory is simple. There's something down there that the global powers don't want the public to know about. Some suggest ancient civilizations or buried alien artifacts lie beneath the ice. Others believe the real secret is biological, strange, hostile creatures adapted to the cold, hidden from the world above. The cover-up, according to these theorists, is not about politics or land control, but about keeping humanity safe, or at least unaware of what really exists in Earth's final frontier. Hashtag the birthplace of icebound legends. Given the context of isolation and secrecy, it's no wonder Antarctica has become ground zero for modern cryptid mythology. Stories have emerged from sailors, scientists, and explorers describing enormous sea creatures rising from beneath ice shelves, mysterious lights flying over the polar sky, and tunnels under the glaciers that seem carved by something intelligent or ancient. Cryptids like the Ningen, a supposed humanoid sea creature seen by Japanese whalers, and Organism 46b, an alleged shape-shifting predator found in Lake Vostok, have only added to the icy legend. While mainstream science dismisses these accounts as hoaxes or misidentifications, the consistency of the reports, paired with the continent's known biological anomalies, keeps the possibility open in the minds of believers. As the global climate warms and glaciers retreat, more of Antarctica's ancient secrets may come to light. But for now, the continent remains a massive, frozen vault, locked by treaties, guarded by ice, and shrouded in suspicion. Let me know if you'd like to proceed with Section 2 or make any changes to this part. Certainly. Here's Section 2, Beasts in the Ice, Theories and Sightings of Antarctic Cryptids, written with a minimum of 700 words. Hashtag Section 2, Beasts in the Ice, Theories and Sightings of Antarctic Cryptids. When it comes to stories of cryptids, mysterious creatures whose existence is unconfirmed by mainstream science, places like Loch Ness, the Himalayas, or the dense forests of the Pacific Northwest typically come to mind. But few realize that Antarctica, the coldest and most remote continent on Earth, may be the most fertile breeding ground for such legends. Far removed from civilization, buried under thick sheets of ice, and shielded by intense geopolitical secrecy, the continent has become the epicenter of bizarre and disturbing cryptid accounts. From gigantic aquatic humanoids to shape-shifting predators, the monsters rumored to inhabit the frozen South seem more alien than animal, and that's precisely what makes them so compelling. Hashtag the Ningen, Antarctica's Pale Leviathan. One of the most persistent cryptid legends to emerge from Antarctica is that of the Ningen, Japanese for human. The Ningen is described as a massive, pale white humanoid creature, sometimes over 60 feet long, with a vaguely human face, arms, and a tail or flipper-like lower body. First reported in the early 2000s by Japanese whaling crews operating in the Southern Ocean, the Ningen is said to move silently through icy waters, occasionally surfacing near ships only to disappear into the depths before it can be documented. The unsettling aspect of the Ningen is its almost human-like features. Witnesses describe it as smooth-skinned, expressionless, and eerily intelligent in its movements, unlike any sea creature known to marine biology. The Japanese government has allegedly collected reports and may have even dispatched research vessels under guise of oceanographic studies. Skeptics suggest the sightings are simply misidentified whales or icebergs, but blurry photos and cryptic testimonies from crew members keep the legend alive. Could the Ningen be an undiscovered deep-sea giant, an evolutionary offshoot adapted to the pitch-black, freezing waters beneath the polar ice? Or is it something far older, left behind by a forgotten epoch? Hashtag Organism 46b, the predator of Lake Vostok. If the Ningen is a leviathan of Antarctic waters, Organism 46b is its nightmare-fuel cousin, reportedly more intelligent, more dangerous, and far more terrifying. The story begins with Lake Vostok, one of the largest subglacial lakes in the world. Buried under over 2.5 miles of ice, it has been sealed off from the surface for more than 15 million years, creating an isolated environment where entirely new ecosystems could evolve. In 2012, Russian scientists finally breached the lake after decades of planning. What they found, or what they allegedly found, remains a point of deep contention. According to a sensational and unconfirmed report that surfaced online in the mid-2010s, a member of the Russian team leaked that they encountered a creature unlike anything known to science. Dubbed Organism 46b, this being was described as a highly intelligent, shape-shifting, cephalopod-like entity. Supposedly 33 feet long, the organism could paralyze prey from a distance using some form of venom or bioelectric field. Even more chilling, it allegedly demonstrated the ability to mimic human behavior and appearance, luring a diver by imitating a colleague before killing him. After several fatalities and a secretive containment effort, the surviving team allegedly captured the creature. What happened next, whether the story is real or an elaborate hoax, remains a mystery. Officially, Russian scientists reported microbial life in the lake, not monstrous predators. But the story of Organism 46B continues to spread across conspiracy forums, alternative news sites, and cryptozoology circles, growing more elaborate with each retelling. Hashtag subglacial ecosystems and microbial marvels. While many cryptid tales are wild and speculative, science itself acknowledges that Antarctica may harbor unknown life beneath its icy crust. Subglacial lakes, such as Vostok, Mercer, and Whillans, are isolated pockets of liquid water trapped beneath thousands of feet of ice, warmed by geothermal heat and protected from surface contaminants. In 2019, U.S. scientists successfully retrieved ancient microbes and signs of extremophiles from Lake Mercer, life forms that exist in total darkness, crushing pressure, and freezing temperatures. Though tiny, these organisms are evidence that life can exist in Earth's most hostile environments. They've also ignited speculation. If microbial life can survive undetected for millions of years, what else might have evolved in isolation? Some theorists believe larger, more complex organisms could exist in these lakes, predator species that have never seen the surface, perhaps even life forms with traits so alien that they could reshape our definition of biology. And if they do exist, wouldn't governments and scientists have an obligation to conceal them for fear of global panic or biohazard risk? Hashtag unverified reports and the fog of secrecy. In addition to more famous cryptid stories, there are scattered, less-known reports of sightings or encounters. Astra, a satellite technician, claimed to have seen heat blooms in areas of East Antarctica where no geothermal activity was recorded, possibly indicating large, warm-blooded life below the ice. Asterisk in 2003, a private expedition reportedly captured sonar signatures of massive moving objects beneath the Ross Ice Shelf, but their data was confiscated by authorities upon returning. Asterisk anonymous whistleblowers, some claiming to be from military or intelligence backgrounds, have hinted at biological research involving creatures not of this Earth found under Antarctic ice. Though unverifiable, the consistency of these stories, from widely different sources, has created a pattern of mystery. Whether exaggerated, fictionalized, or suppressed truths, they point to something. Antarctica may not be as lifeless as we once believed. If you're ready, I can continue with Section 3, Conspiracies and Cover UPS, Who Knows What, or revise anything in Section 2. Certainly. Here's Section 3, Conspiracies and Cover UPS, Who Knows What, written with minimum of 700 words. Hashtag Section 3, Conspiracies and Cover UPS, Who Knows What? The mysteries of Antarctica don't end with whispers of cryptids beneath the ice. In fact, for many researchers and theorists, it's not the creatures themselves that are the most disturbing. It's the layers of secrecy surrounding them. Despite Antarctica's supposed role as a hub of peaceful international science, the continent has a long, unsettling history of surveillance, information suppression, and unexplained disappearances. Who is really in control of what happens in Antarctica? And more importantly, what are they trying to hide? Hashtag military presence in a demilitarized zone. Officially, the Antarctic Treaty of 1959 prohibits military activity on the continent. But prohibition doesn't mean absence. Military equipment, personnel, and logistical support are routinely involved in Antarctic operations. Nations like the United States, Russia, China, and the UK maintain not only research stations, but also icebreaker ships, communications facilities, and airstrips capable of supporting military-grade aircraft. The justification is always the same, supporting scientific research in an inhospitable environment. But the deeper question is, why so much military involvement for just research? There are repeated accounts of blacked-out satellite zones, guarded perimeters, and military escorts for expeditions that veer too close to restricted areas. Some researchers claim to have been followed, intercepted, or even forced to abandon their studies without clear explanation. Drone footage has allegedly been confiscated, cameras wiped, communication logs redacted. There are even reports of underground installations, some suggesting the existence of miles-long tunnels beneath the ice, accessible only via airlift or unmarked vehicles. If Antarctica is merely a neutral zone for international science, why does it seem like a classified military installation? Hashtag government programs and genetic secrets. Theorists have long suspected that Antarctica is being used for biological experimentation, but not the kind you read about in peer-reviewed journals. Several unconfirmed but persistent leaks point towards secret programs focused on harvesting biological material from beneath the ice, including DNA from long-extinct or previously unknown life forms. One frequently cited theory involves organism 46, B. See Section 2, a hypothetical creature that some claim was not just studied but weaponized. Allegedly, governments discovered that the organism's bioelectric or neurotoxic properties had military applications. From this perspective, Antarctica becomes not a forbidden zone, but a controlled laboratory for bioengineering. The cover-up is not just about monsters, it's about ownership. Similar claims suggest that human genetic material has been introduced to isolated ecosystems, either accidentally or deliberately, with the goal of producing hybrid life forms. If this sounds like science fiction, consider that human experimentation for military ends, such as the infamous MKUltra program, has been documented in history. Could Antarctica be the modern-day location for such operations, away from public scrutiny and legal oversight? Hashtag disappearances and the vanishing researchers. Few things raise more red flags than missing people. Over the decades, dozens of accounts have surfaced of personnel allegedly going missing in Antarctica under mysterious circumstances. While some are officially reported as accidents, lost during blizzards, trapped in crevasses, or the result of equipment failure, others are never fully explained. In some cases, reports vanish from the record, names are scrubbed, families are silenced with non-disclosure agreements or monetary compensation. One former contractor for a private logistics company working near the South Pole Station claimed that 2 scientists wandered off base during a low-visibility storm and were never recovered, despite GPS trackers showing they had stopped moving only 200 yards away. When the weather cleared, their footprints ended abruptly. Their equipment was never found. Another story involves a drone team from New Zealand whose footage reportedly captured something massive moving under the ice near the Shackleton Range. Within 48 hours, the crew was recalled, their digital drives seized by Australian intelligence services under pressure from the U.S. Embassy. None of the researchers were allowed to speak to the media. Are these stories exaggerations? Possibly, but they reflect a broader pattern of controlled narrative and missing information. In a continent where nearly every movement is logged, regulated, and monitored, how can so many people or pieces of evidence vanish without a trace? Hashtag the silencing of science. Not even scientists are immune to the apparent censorship that surrounds Antarctica. Multiple researchers have gone on record, often post-retirement, claiming that their work was either unpublished, edited, or buried altogether. One glaciologist from a Scandinavian research institute said that unusual magnetic readings from beneath the East Antarctic ice sheet were sanitized in the final version of his paper. They removed all references to artificial symmetry and temperature anomalies, he claimed. I was told not to ask questions. Another researcher described being visited by intelligence officials after returning from a geological expedition near Queen Maud Land. He was advised not to pursue publication of findings that suggested the presence of synthetic compounds in supposedly untouched regions. When asked who the officials represented, he reportedly replied, "They didn't say, but they weren't with any scientific body." Furthermore, news coverage of these matters is practically non-existent in mainstream outlets. Stories of unusual events or discoveries in Antarctica are often confined to fringe websites, alternative media, or anonymous message boards. The rare mention of Antarctic anomalies in major media is usually paired with mocking tone, suggesting that any deviation from the official story is conspiracy theorizing. But when every major power on Earth agrees to keep one region locked down and carefully monitored, shouldn't that make us question what's being hidden? Let me know if you'd like to move forward with Section 4 or make any changes to this section.
Certainly. Here's Section 4. Cold Truths and the Edge of Disclosure. What Lies Ahead, written with a minimum of 700 words. Hashtag Section 4. Cold Truths and the Edge of Disclosure. What Lies Ahead. The mythology of Antarctica as a realm of secrecy, hidden monsters, and forbidden knowledge has persisted for decades, growing more complex with each passing year. As environmental changes, technological advancements, and public awareness increase, many are beginning to wonder whether the veil of silence that shrouds the frozen continent is beginning to thin. Are we nearing the moment when the world will be forced to confront the truth about what lies beneath the ice? And if so, are we truly ready to face it? Hashtag melting ice. Rising questions. One of the most significant drivers of potential discovery is climate change. Antarctica's vast ice shelves are retreating at alarming rates. Glaciers are calving into the sea, and what was once buried under miles of frozen insulation is now beginning to thaw. While this has dire consequences for sea levels and global weather patterns, it also presents an unprecedented opportunity for exploration. As the ice recedes, ancient ecosystems, fossilized remains, and possibly even the rumored cryptids may be exposed. Subglacial lakes, once sealed away for millions of years, could be breached more easily. Remote sensing equipment is already revealing anomalies. Unusual heat signatures, magnetic disturbances, and topographical inconsistencies that defy geological expectations. In the years to come, unmanned drones, ice-penetrating radar, and satellite imagery may reveal things previously deemed inaccessible. But with each new discovery comes a new set of questions. Will governments allow open access to these findings? Or will the pattern of redaction, suppression, and covert retrieval continue? Hashtag the push for disclosure. In recent years, there has been a growing movement demanding transparency from government and scientific institutions regarding Antarctica. Fueled by the broader push for UAP, unidentified aerial phenomena, disclosure, climate activism, and whistleblower testimonies, more people than ever are asking, what do we know about Earth's last frontier? Some independent researchers and former military personnel have begun to leak data and experiences that point toward deeper knowledge. Files claim to be from declassified military projects reference non-human biological entities observed in remote regions of the southern pole. Others mention contact scenarios and recovery operations near collapsed ice structures. Information that is difficult to verify but impossible to fully dismiss. Even within academic circles, some scientists are calling for international protocols for unknown life form discovery. Not just microbes, but multicellular or intelligent life. These guidelines include safety measures, containment procedures, and ethics debates. Further evidence that at least some factions believe that a discovery of major biological significance is not just possible, but imminent. If public disclosure ever does come, it may be piecemeal, select images, controlled studies, or vague acknowledgments. But there's also the chance of an accidental reveal. An unintentional satellite image, a viral leak from a research station, or a civilian expedition stumbling upon something they were never meant to see. Hashtag. What if they're real? Suppose for a moment that the theories are correct. That beneath Antarctica's ice there are real physical beings, either native to Earth or of unknown origin, who have remained hidden from the public. What would that mean? From a scientific standpoint, such a discovery would rewrite biology, evolution, and perhaps even human history. If creatures like the Ningen or Organism 46 truly exist, it would imply the presence of ecosystems isolated long enough to develop entirely unique forms of life, possibly with features we've never encountered before. Bioluminescence, shape-shifting, electrical projection, or even forms of communication we don't yet understand. From a political perspective, it could lead to a global crisis. Who owns the discovery? How is it handled? Do we protect these life forms, study them, or, more darkly, exploit them? And what if these beings aren't just animalistic predators, but intelligent? More frighteningly, the implications could shake human civilization. Imagine a species with intelligence equal to or surpassing our own, who has watched us from the shadows. Governments may fear panic, chaos, or the breakdown of social order. That fear might explain decades of silence. ##### the ethical frontier. While fascination with Antarctic cryptids often drifts toward horror or science fiction, it also presents deep ethical challenges. If something is discovered, especially if it shows signs of intelligence or sentience, how should humanity respond? Should we reach out? Should we preserve and protect? Or will we, as history has too often shown, attempt to dominate, study, and control? Antarctica is not just a land of mystery, but also of moral reckoning. As we inch closer to its secrets, we must also prepare ourselves to ask difficult questions about our role as stewards of the unknown. Explorers of the 21st century no longer traverse blank spots on the map. They explore beneath the surface through ice, data, and whispers. If the cryptids of Antarctica are real, then the frontier is no longer a place. It's a mirror, reflecting back our curiosity, fear, and hunger for control. #### final thoughts. Beneath the ice, beneath the truth. Whether you believe in the cryptids of Antarctica or not, one truth is undeniable. Antarctica is the most tightly controlled, least understood landmass on the planet. Between the secrecy of governments, the harshness of the terrain, and the continual stream of anomalous reports, the continent invites questions like few other places on Earth. Are there monsters beneath the ice? Are governments hiding more than scientific discoveries? Is the world on the verge of a revelation that will change our understanding of nature, history, or even ourselves? Only time, and perhaps the thinning ice, will tell. Let me know if you'd like this formatted as a full document, need citations, or want to adapt this into a script, article, or video.